Hey everybody, welcome to This is Gravel. Can't believe we're on like episode, was it 5 now?
We're on 5 now.
5. What's been going on in the world of gravel?
Well, all kinds of stuff. I mean, a few locals were just up in Iowa this past weekend, completing the Trans-Iowa, which is a 340-mile gravel ride up there in Iowa. And so shout out to Scott O'Mara for finishing that bad boy. And of course, Jim Cummins attempted the beast, wasn't quite able to make it to the finish line, but it was a valiant effort given all of his travels and busy work schedule. So
yeah, he just got back from around, is it Newcastle type area up there?
Yeah, a couple hours
England?
north. We'll be talking Dirty Reaver today, actually. We've got Paul Arrington on the show, so excited to hear about the UK's first big gravel event.
Cool. What's your next event you're going to be riding in?
I've got Maisie's coming up, and in fact, I'm somewhat ashamed to say this. Sorry, Ryan, but this is my first Uncle Dudley event.
You haven't done the 50?
I have not done any Maisie's or Jagger or anything he's put on. Between my time in Colorado and moving back here and being so busy with DK, I just haven't signed up for one. So I'm very much looking forward to that. Not this weekend, but next.
Did you do any of the DK routes when they went up into the Alma area with Little Egypt and stuff?
I've definitely ridden up in that area, not as part of an event, but I'm familiar with the terrain. So.
Nice. Well, I've done the 50 several years at Maisie's. This year I'm going to do the 100. I've driven through the Little Egypt, but I've never actually ridden my bike.
You've never ridden Little Egypt?
No. Last year I drove through it and helped pick up some riders who were struggling and things, and I've always had an injury or always been something else come up, and so I've always done the 50. So.
Yeah, well, and for those that aren't familiar with this area, we're talking Wabaunsee County, which is our neighbor to the north, and whether you're participating in an event like Maisie's or Jagger that take place out of Eskridge, or you can even tackle the DK Promotions Native Stone Route, which goes up through Council Grove into Wabaunsee County and traverses Little Egypt and Old K4 and just some gorgeous territory. And it's called native stone for the native limestone fences that still line the highways and roadways up there. So it's really beautiful.
It is really nice up there. The gravel's totally different around the Little Egypt area. It's bigger, boulder sized things, and big crevices that you ride through. And so Ryan, don't ever say we didn't give you any love, because we definitely love riding up there. But
absolutely.
So we're also going to be answering some questions, I think, at the end of this show. And we have a big announcement on who the winner of the caption contest was.
Yes.
Anything else you want to talk about going over this week?
Well, it's rainy. It's back to rainy, and it's hard to complain about it because we all know we need it. And so better now than in 5 or 6 weeks from now, because Dirty Kansas is fast approaching, and fingers crossed for a dry one this year. Hopefully, that's what we'll get.
That was a really weak knock on wood.
Yeah. There you go. That'll make up for it. Is this even real wood, do we know?
I don't know. It could be particle wood board. But, between we've been training in the wind so far, so I think a lot of us are ready for the wind should that become an issue, but hopefully we don't have wind, rain, and hail in the Dirty Kansas.
All we can say is be prepared for all.
That's right.
All situations.
With that, do we have I think we have an interview with Paul that's coming up. Is that correct?
We do. Like I said, we've got Paul Arrington from England coming up later on the show. I think we've got, let's announce our winner of our photo caption contest. Okay. And we had some great responses. I think Matt's going to pull that up for us. There we go. So this was the image. This is actually the casual cyclist here, Bobby, at Race the Chase. And he had the aid station set up for our runners who were doing a 50K trail running race. And so Corbin McGuire is our winner. He says, look who's joining the Goo Goo Dolls. And I think that's the 90s alt-rock in us that really appreciated that one.
I think we're showing our age by letting that hit a chord with us. So we're definitely a good call on that one. Good job, Corbin, and we'll get you some merchandise. So what was exactly in the prize pack?
We've got some Goo product, a Goo bottle, and a hydration mix, and then a tube of chamois butter. So again, it goes without saying what the chamois butter is for. Watch the show, enjoy that, and apply liberally on your rides.
Only on the rides. I do want to say definitely thank you to Goo Energy Labs and to chamois butter for providing us with a couple of gifts to give away. We really, really, truly do appreciate that.
Absolutely. And be watching the show and watching social media for more contests like that, for sure.
Okay. So two weeks ago now, the Dirty Reaver was over around the England-Scotland border. Jim Cummins from Emporia, we've mentioned that. We mentioned that we had a chance to talk with Paul Arrington, who was very, very good-natured about sitting down and talking with us from across the ocean, which is pretty cool, actually, that we got that on tape. Any thoughts on the race itself? I mean, did you see the footage from that thing?
I have got to see the footage, and it looks amazing. Obviously, the scenery in the UK looks stunning, and for the first year, they had an amazing turnout. And so I'm really excited to hear from Paul and his thoughts on this year's event, and can't wait to see this one grow.
Okay.
We'd love to hear from you in your own words, your experiences that you've had on gravel and kind of what led you to create your own event in England.
Yeah, I think every time anyone asks me why I created this event, I have a different answer. So I think it was just my time to do something event-based. So like we said, we had such positive experience when I came to Emporia. The following year, when I went to Grinnell to do Trans Iowa, and I just felt like we were missing something in the UK. We were missing a grinder or a really cool event that would offer not only just like a good sociable atmosphere, but also a really good testing, challenging ride.
Yeah, I think, I just received a link yesterday for a gravel event in South Africa, and I'm seeing events promoted in Australia, and they're using the gravel grinding terminology, and I think it's exciting, certainly for us, to see that expansion and the use of that nomenclature worldwide. I don't think we certainly ever thought that would be the case. So a lot of us are interested. I know a little bit about the naming of your event, but where does Dirty Reaver come from, and what's the story behind that?
Well, I think the first part is pretty self-explanatory. So, motivated by the work you guys are doing there. The Reaver part is a historical element. There was a group of guys called the Border Reavers who existed kind of in this region where the event takes place. It's between England and Scotland, and back historically with a kind of a grey area. And these Border Reaver guys would just kind of raid the English and raid the Scottish and had no allegiance to either party. Real scumbags. But much like grinders,
Yeah.
kind of a motley crew of ragtag guys. And
Well, it's kind of actually quite fitting, because I think a lot of gravel folks would say they have no allegiance to road or mountain biking specifically, and they just kind of ride bikes and do their own thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's excellent.
Yeah.
Well, Jim Cummins was fortunate to be over there and participate in the first running, and I've definitely loved seeing his photos and hearing his stories. But how was the event from your perspective as the event director?
That's pretty busy. It was a lot of work. So we were a small group of people. There's three of us who act as race directors, and it's very hands-on. So we were doing the sign-on. We were out on the course. The guys were there a week previously marking out the course. So it went well. We were all experienced cyclists. We knew what a good event should be and how it should work, and hopefully we pulled it off. And there's a lot of happy people now.
Did you have a lot of volunteers this first time through?
Yeah, we had a lot. I mean, one of the great comments and the comments that we're seeing a lot of now is how great the guys were out on the course. They were super positive, really enthusiastic, and we had a small group, maybe less than 20 people, helped us do this. So they were having to operate on one part of the course and then drive to another part of the course. So they worked hard for the whole day.
Excellent. And you had just shy of 500 registered participants. Is that right?
Yeah, I think we had 470 guys registered, and I think we had 350 actually took the start line.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think one thing we see here at a lot of these events is probably half or a third of the people are first-time riders, first-time big event riders. Did you see a lot of that, or were they mostly experienced riders?
I mean, there's a lot of experienced guys in very different genres of cycling. I think, as you say, we're kind of the first to replicate this Midwest style of gravel grinding, and no one really knew what to expect. They didn't know, what the course would be like, what bike to use, how to train for it. So it was a massive unknown for everybody.
Were you kind of expecting that kind of turnout? I mean, to have 470 registered in your first year event, that would be wildly successful over here by anyone's standards.
No. I think we set ourselves a field limit of 400 riders, and we had that in 10 days.
Wow.
So we were hugely surprised by how quickly, for what is a bit of, like I said, a bit of an unknown. Mm-hmm. Myself, I'm a first-time event organizer, so everyone took a big leap of faith in joining us on the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Was it just that it was? Is it just totally new for the riders over there, or had they seen some of the events over here and they said, wish we could do something like that over here, or was it just totally out of the blue new?
No, I think that the work that Cells do, the really out of the Dirty Kansas, there's definitely a small group of people who understand what the whole gravel grinding scene is about. I think over the last year, what we've seen is a huge marketing push from a lot of the big manufacturers to get gravel bikes into the UK and into Europe. And what we were saying was that, this is what these bikes are built for. So, if you've invested, then this is the event for you.
And your event, I mean, you've obviously modeled it after a lot of events here and kind of took that gravel theme, but you've done some things, I think, that really make it unique in your own. And one of the things that really intrigues me is the way you have your finisher categories, for example. I mean, it's not a first through 300th or however many finishers you had, right? It's not a placing system. Is that right? Can you explain a little bit how that works for you?
Yeah, so what we have in England especially, not so much in Scotland, is we have kind of weird access laws, which means that we can't race on anything that can be used by the public. So what we do, instead of having a race, we have a timed event. We call it a challenge, and then we categorize our finishing time. So, what we said was the first 10% of riders would be, they're high women. Then you have the 10 to 30% guys, they're the outlaws, and then 30% and above, they're the brigands. So yeah, it's really to overcome that we can't have a race on the scale of the course that we need to put out there. But we want to make it interesting and challenging. So we hope the guys who didn't finish in that top 10% will be back in training hard.
Yeah, and I think that could be, you've obviously used that law to your advantage, at least the best that you can, and I think that kind of speaks to the gravel mentality. Even though you're only a week out from this year's event, maybe you've got some ideas already and the wheels are turning for what you might do next year.
So 2017 is already open. Our sponsors signed up on the day for next year, so we're good to go. I think what we want to do, as well as the Dirty River, is we want to put our mark on what we think gravel is going to be in the UK and Europe. So we have a different event, a different style, not a grinder. So we'll have something a bit fresh for 2017.
We'll definitely be looking forward to it. Well, Paul, definitely thank you for taking the time for joining us today. We had a blast chatting with you, and maybe Bobby and myself will find a way to get across the pond next year.
Thanks, Paul.
Excellent. Thanks, guys. Yeah. Thank you very much.
See ya. Paul, thanks again for letting us ask a few questions, and we want to thank Kevin for the footage on that. Great job riding, Kevin. Great job out there. I can't believe, I guess I wasn't expecting the weather that they had.
Yeah, we're done snowing.
Yeah, exactly. It's still snowing. We're kind of moving out of that phase, but I always got to remember we're here and they're there. So.
Yeah, we mentioned that it's we're having some rainy weather here in the Midwest now, and there's a big difference though between our rain in the UK, because obviously everyone knows the stereotype that it's always rainy over there, but their surfaces are vastly different. It's always muddy here because we have dirt, clay-based soil, and over there it's very rocky-based. And so Jim, having been over there, mentioned that even though it was misty and a little rainy, light rainy most of the time, even some snow, the riding surface was never muddy or difficult to traverse in that sense. So
don't really have to worry about the weather so much in terms of being stuck in the mud or walking through sections.
No, and I'm sure they're pretty happy about that too.
Yes.
So that's something that only we get to treat people with.
Yeah, that's right.
So.
That's a Midwest thing, I believe.
Leland, I have heard through the grapevine that you are going to give us a tip today on riding on your bike in the drops for a gravel event.
Yeah,
is that correct?
It seems like such a common thing. Most people are riding drop handlebar bikes. Some folks are still on flat bars or riding mountain bikes, and that's fantastic. But there's a lot of advantage to riding in the drops, and I see so many. And we're not just talking new beginner cyclists. I see a lot of experienced riders that still are not riding down in the drops, and there's a lot of advantage to be had in that. And so I'd love to share some tips on how to get a little bit more speed out of your bike by getting comfortable by riding in the drops.
All right, we're down here at Gravel City Adventure and Supply Company, and today we're talking riding in the drops. It seems like something so simple, but I see not only a lot of beginners making this mistake, but a lot of intermediate advanced riders who simply have not put in the time to get comfortable riding in the drops. And there's a lot of advantages to doing so. Especially when you live in the gravel capital of the world here in Emporia. The roads we ride on contain a lot of loose gravel, and we are always fighting a lot of wind. And those are two of the biggest advantages you'll get from riding in the drops. Not only will you gain more control from coming from the hoods or the tops of the handlebars, when you come down in the drops, you lower your center of gravity. That gives you more control and stability over the bike. You can notice that when I come from this position up here, or if I'm riding up top, this is a big gap. We're going to lose a few inches of surface area that the wind is going to fight against. And so, like everything, when you're training, you're not just training your legs and your aerobic system. You're training, like we've talked about, your nutrition. You need to practice your skills, and you need to train your skills in the same way. A lot of people will tell me that they just don't feel comfortable in the drops. And yeah, it might be a little bit uncomfortable at first, but you need to practice the time. So my recommendation to you is, if you have not yet gotten comfortable in the drops, it's an easier way into it, just like you would any interval or any training concept. Try it for a minute. Try it for 5 minutes. Try it for 30 minutes. Try it for an entire headwind section. The more you get comfortable in it, the longer you can extend that time that you stay in there. So if you want to beat the wind and you want to have more control over your bike, you need to learn to ride in your drops. Now, if you're spending ample time riding in your drops and you're still feeling some discomfort, particularly in your lower back and your glutes, it could be that you're not very flexible, and you could work on improving your flexibility, because getting down in the drops does deepen the stretch there. It also could be that you don't have a proper bike fit. And maybe that's a good time to go to your local bike shop and see about getting fitted properly, because you should not feel discomfort if you are regularly practicing and spending time down in your drops. So thanks for tuning in. Definitely go out and practice riding in your drops and enjoy this gravel.
Thanks, Leland. You know, I actually, the group ride last Thursday, I did have a newer rider who actually asked me that how do you ride in the drops, needs to ride a little bit better in the drops, that kind of thing. So
we've got some questions from our viewers, right? Matt, our producer Matt, was able to find us some good questions that you guys have had. So let's address some of those. Bobby, what are you doing the 48 hours before a big ride?
48 hours. So the day or two before, I've definitely tapered down any long distance riding, and I'm more focused on just kind of keeping the metabolism racing, running at a high level, and the heart rate kind of up. So I'll do a couple of quick, maybe 18 to 20 mile rides with some high spins, just to kind of keep the legs fresh. I have started watching very carefully what I'm eating. Not so much for a nutritional issue, more or less, but just so I don't have stomach problems the day of the race. So also probably hydrating a little bit more. So
Yeah, I think the key thing to understand here in the couple days leading up to your big ride is obviously get plenty of sleep, more so than you normally do if you can. If your schedule allows, throw an extra nap in there because you've likely been doing a big training volume coming into this. The other mistake I think I see a lot of people make is they'll take the few days right before their big ride off, but as you mentioned, that's actually not the best approach. Then you come in a little bit stale if you've just been off the bike and not riding. So you definitely don't want to go out super long. You do want to throw in a short bit of intensity to keep the legs fresh a day or two prior, and that'll help your legs definitely be ready for that. And really, there's no cramming for the final exam. Within 48 hours from your big ride, within a week from your big ride, whatever legs you have, that's the legs you're going to get. You're going to do more to hurt your race negatively by trying to do more that final week or the final couple days than you would if you were to just relax and take a step back from your training. So get ample rest. Throw in a couple short bouts of intensity. Monitor your nutrition and sleep, and relax.
One last thing I'll add to that is try to have your gear ready. Your bike set up and everything ready a couple days ahead. There's nothing like panicking at the last minute because you don't have something charged or something ready to go.
Yeah, preparation. So, have all your stuff. In 2 weeks ago, our last episode, you talked about what you have in your feed bag and that sort of thing. All of that should be prepared already to the best of your ability. Have your bottles pre-made and in the fridge, so you just have to grab them the morning of. Have your bags laid out and set up. Even have your race kit packed in your backpack if you don't come to the race already dressed. Just have everything where you know it's going to be and prepared and set aside. That way the morning of, you're not rushing around like a madman.
Absolutely. I just figured this out towards the end of last year. Spinning.
Thank you.
Find a low gear and spin through the wind. Don't try to force yourself through the wind. If you're trying to force yourself through the wind, it's just like trying to force yourself up a hill. You're going to end up walking eventually. So yeah, you got to find a gear that works for you and spin. And when you get tired in that gear, go one gear down lower and spin in that one. And believe it or not, you'll catch your breath and you'll be able to shift back up a gear. So that's my tip.
Yeah, cycling is a game of patience. I mean, you cannot mash your way through a strong headwind. Monitor your effort, shift down into a lower gear, get over the fact that maybe that's slowing you down half a mile an hour, because in the long run it'll go quicker. You'll get through that section faster. Mentally, what really helps me is singing songs. I gotta keep my brain occupied, just keep spinning.
You don't want to ride behind Leland in the wind because you have to listen.
I think that comes from my wife. Yeah. I've been riding with her a lot lately, and I think it's rubbing off on me. Hey, whatever you got to do.
Depends on the ride.
Yeah, it definitely depends on the ride. I mean, I think for most people, your first reaction is to try to outrun the dog, and hopefully that is something you can do. Hopefully you're not caught on an uphill side of things and have to try to sprint away from them. I think typically majority of the dogs truly are friendly. They just want to chase something. They're protecting their property just like they would chase a car. One thing I usually do is try to shout very loudly and assertively, "Go home." And I will tell you with all honesty, that works nearly every time. The dog, it may still run alongside of me, but it doesn't approach any closer, and they usually stay on their property. Mm-hmm. And that allows me enough time to get away and get out of distance.
Yeah. Go home, stay.
Yeah.
In most cases,
commands that they would know.
Yeah. In most cases, they'll run to the end of their property and back. So yeah. There are times when they do come out on the gravel and get pretty close to your bike, and the best you can do is just get out of the situation as soon as you can.
Yeah, so. I've heard of people they'll try to spray them with their water bottle or something. They even make dog sprays like pepper sprays and that sort of thing that you could use. I do know of some folks that have been bitten, and so if that's something that's really a concern of yours and you know that you won't be able to outrun them, there are products that help with that. Worst case scenario, if you get trapped by a dog and are forced off your bike, definitely put your bike in between you and the animal. Remain calm. Don't act aggressively toward it. Don't throw rocks or kick at it. Just be calm until either assistance can arrive. Maybe you can get on your phone, get someone on the phone to help, or maybe the owners are nearby.
I'd say we're pretty lucky, and that doesn't happen too often around here.
Yeah, you're always going to have some dogs out in the country. We're fortunate that Lyon County does have a leash law, but not everyone abides by that. But still, just act accordingly. Protect yourself, but don't act aggressively.
Like the whole bike? Like everything?
How often do you lube your chain, Bobby?
Well, Leland, I do try to...
Disclaimer, there's a big difference between how often we maintain our bikes and how often you should maintain your bike.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, I give my bike a good thorough cleaning. I've been doing it about once a week now, but to be honest, as a disclaimer, I've only been doing that for about a month. There have been numerous years where I'm not very good about cleaning at all. The chain, lubing the chain after land run this year, I did ride about 20 miles. I forgot to do it at the halfway point. So I rode about 20 miles with it the whole time, and it was definitely, it affected me mentally because it just sounds like your bike's breaking. Since that ride, I do re-lube the chain probably about every other ride, I'd say, just to make sure.
Yeah, I think what's important for everyone to know is that you should clean your bike on a weekly basis. And when I say clean, I'm not talking about taking all the parts off and deep cleaning. That's probably once a month or every other month or so, depending on where you're riding, how often, and the type of mud and gunk that you're getting into. But make it easy on yourself. We've talked about how to clean your bike in a previous episode 2, I believe, when we were down at Land Run, and we were caked with mud. And so make things simple for yourself by having all of your cleaning supplies in a bucket near to where you would wash your bike, either down in your basement at the bottom of your stairs or right inside your mudroom door or porch or wherever it is that you can stash that. And then that way when you finish from a ride once a week, it's just a lot easier. It's right there, easy to grab. You can flip the hose on, hose it down, scrub things down. Definitely degrease that chain and lube it at least once a week, if not every few rides for sure.
That's what I've been telling you. Wow.
Oh, goodness. If I had my choice of goo, Yuri, what would that be? I mean, to be quite honest, I'm really fond of the salted caramel already.
That's an easy way. Do
well,
something different.
I'm
Get
telling
creative.
you, I'm a fan of the sweets. Okay, well, what else would I be craving on a long ride? A nice juicy hamburger, a little bacon cheeseburger.
A hamburger goo?
Oh yeah, are you kidding me?
No, no, not a hamburger goo. Don't do hamburger. I gotta say, it's gotta be something a little tart. That's what it's gotta be. Totally wake up the taste buds, kind of knock it out of the park. So,
wake up the senses.
Wake up the senses. A nice sour beer.
Oh,
From, let's see, what would be a nice sour? You know, Boulevard has a hibiscus that's actually pretty good with sour right now. Maybe something like that. I think that would be great.
I think when the beer's gone to gel form, it's safe to say it's gone bad.
Okay, well that could be true. I guess we could make our own goo if we let it sit long enough. So, okay, is that good? All right. So I want to thank all the listeners for the questions. I think the questions are fun. So
Absolutely. Send in your questions for sure. Write us on Facebook, Twitter. Follow us on social media. Definitely let us know what questions that you have, and we'd love to address them here on the show.
Okay. Real quick, Radius, I love your sour beer also. It's really good and tasty. Okay. Yes, please send us your questions. All forms of social media. Send them to us. We'll make sure we get them. And I'd love to answer twice as many next week. So with that, have a wonderful final week in April, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.